Hello, this is the Talking Puck podcast. My name is Sean Coles, and I'm joined by my co-host Ryan Lake, and we're going to start off the week as we normally do with a roundup of the week that it was for the Canadian teams, and as is normal, we're going to start off with the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are currently sitting with a record of 12-12-7, so right at 1,200 or 500 there, excuse me, and not a great week, or last week and a half, that I can see here. They started off with 3-1 loss against the Avs, followed that up with a 3-2 shootout loss against the Sharks, followed that up with another 3-2 shootout loss with the Coyotes, managed to somehow pull out a win 2-1 against the Penguins in overtime, and then lost again 3-2 to the Ducks. Mm-hmm. So, Ryan, not a great week, was it?
The Leafs have a common trend that I'm finding lately. It's let's heavily outshoot the opponent, but somehow still find a way to lose.
Yes. Yeah, and I don't know if part of that's down to the amount of youth that they have in the lineup and not being at that NHL level yet for actually burying their chances. Whether a lot of their chances are coming from the perimeter.
Well, I feel like a lot of their shots they're just shooting from everywhere, right? Yeah. They're just trying to create traffic.
They are getting chances, but then they're running into hot goalies or not getting the bounces, and I gotta admit, it's fucking frustrating.
It would be. I mean, I'm not a Leafs fan myself, and nothing against them, but every time I look at the highlights or the scores, they seem to have 34, 35, 40 shots on net, and they're losing 2-3-1, and you gotta wonder if they can find a way to get one or two more goals with those shots, then they're going to be pretty dominant, I think.
Yeah, and I feel like they're set up well for the second half. Their rookies are getting better. Like every game, they're just getting better. Austin Matthews took on a major role against the Ducks on Monday with Bozak and Ben Smith being out, and had like 55% Corsi against Ryan Getzlaf.
Right.
Which is unreal for a 19-year-old to do that to Ryan Getzlaf.
Anybody to do that to Ryan Getzlaf. Yeah, and also like looking at some of those games, they're not. It's not like they're losing and they're playing bad. Like they only got one win this week, but they're in every game. They were all, other than the game against the Avs, which was an empty netter. They were all one-goal losses.
They were still in that game though.
Right? Oh yeah,
the better end.
But the 200-foot shot from their own end that went in for the empty netter was kind of the dagger there.
Yeah, that was the nail in the coffin, that's for sure.
But I mean, the Sharks are a good team. They lost in a shootout. The Coyotes are not so good, but
no, they're not. They're a train wreck.
But again, the 3-2 lost the shootout, so they're still at least getting a point. They got 4 points out of 4 or 5 games, so they're. It's not what they want, but it's not the worst thing.
The problem is that there was the possibility for 10 points and they only got 4. And that's just not good enough. At least, you know what, for me that's not good enough. But I do recognize that they are still like year 2 of a rebuild. They're going to lose.
The only thing, I know you touched on saying that they're set up for the second half. With a lot of these guys being so young and not used to the schedule of the NHL, you got to hope that their bodies don't, give up on them for being the first season. A lot of times these guys tire out in the second half.
That is true. That is true. But the way that Babcock rolls the 4 lines, they don't play a lot of minutes. Aside from the defense, the forwards might play maybe 17 minutes a night.
Yeah, so they should be pretty
most
fresh.
20. Yeah, exactly. They're not logging heavy minutes.
The only other thing that I found was pretty interesting was Marner and Matthews were like begging and pleading to play together, and they finally got that chance to play together against the Ducks.
Well, I loved the shot of them the other night walking in with great fedoras on and nice suits, jackets, everything.
They look like Darkwing Duck.
Yeah. But I gotta admit, I know Don Cherry must be over the moon about it, and I'm sure we're gonna see something about it.
Oh, probably
come Saturday, because as he always says, NHLers are the best dressed of all pro athletes.
Well, don't look at Cam Newton in the NFL. He got benched for a few plays because he didn't wear a tie to the beginning of the game.
And hockey's got like junior players wearing a minimum tie and shirt to their games.
And then you look at basketball players, and some of them dress Russell Westbrook, guys like that. I don't even know what their outfit is. It's like someone puked and they put their clothes on.
Yeah, it's very Kanye West. But the Leafs are going to be a team to keep an eye on. But you know what? As long as they get a top 10 pick this year, I'm good. But they've got to figure something out to be able to push on, not just in the second half of this year, but next year as well. Because these kinds of results will not be acceptable.
Yeah, and you better hope that, because at this point you don't want to, if you're not going to make the playoffs, you don't want to finish 15th, 16th, or 17th because you're not really going to get that good of a selection.
Not this year, no.
No, not at all. So if you are going to not, if you are in year 2 of a rebuild, you hope that if you're not going to be in the playoffs, that you finish bottom 10.
Yeah, at minimum. But we'll move it along here to the Montreal Canadiens, who are sitting with a record currently of 21-7-4, and it wasn't a bad week for them. It was kind of so. They played the Bruins, lost 2-1 in overtime. They played the Sharks, lost 4-2, and that happens. Sharks are a great team, but they beat the Capitals 2-1 and beat the Ducks 5-1.
Yeah, and the Capitals game was on a back-to-back for them as well for the Canadiens.
Yeah.
So. They're for all these people saying that it's just Carey Price. They're getting a lot of scoring from all 4 lines. You look at guys like Deneau. There's all these guys that you don't even really normally hear of. They're not household names who are scoring at a decent pace that they're not expected to. Now you got to wonder if that's going to hold up, but if they can keep with a hot goalie and get scoring from at least 3 or 4 of the lines, I don't see them really slowing down as long as everyone stays healthy.
That's true. And the one guy that's got to stay healthy is Carey Price, because where Carey Price goes, that team goes.
Yeah, pretty much. And, that's not saying that he's their team, but pretty much when your star player is
minimum 50%.
Oh, yeah. Team. If Crosby were to be gone, the Penguins lose their star, but they still have a decent team.
They got Malkin to step
right,
up,
but when your star franchise player is your goalie, anybody who loses their starting goalie is going to be in bad shape.
Unless you're the Penguins.
Yeah, well, true, but they have pretty much two almost 3 starting goalies last year. But you lose your starting goalie, you're going to lose some games. If you lose your starting goalie, who's also your franchise player, it's nothing against Carey Price that he's the team, but. Who knows? If they keep scoring like this, they can really tend to lose Carey Price if they can keep 4 or 5 goals a game.
That's true, but I find that especially what was shown last year is that they only have the confidence to play the way they do
in front of Carey Price.
Carey Price is back there to help them out if they fuck up, right?
Oh, it also helps that they don't have no offense against Subban, but he did lead the league in turnovers. So it also helps that they got more solid defense in front of their goalie.
That's
as well.
Just the way that Subban plays.
Right,
he's a high risk, high reward
for sure
player.
But, at this point, I don't think many people are really missing him compared to what Weber also brings.
They don't miss him right now. I think once Subban gets a little more settled in Nashville and that team starts playing to their potential, and especially a couple of years down the road when Subban's still in his prime and Weber's really starting to slow down, you are going to see some differences in Montreal Canadiens fans, at least, and maybe their management going, oh man, that deal looked great for us in the short term, but man, we're screwed.
Yeah, you could also argue too that who knows, maybe Subban's not even going to put up the numbers that he did. It's different style, different system, more hard hitting, not as much open ice in the West.
I've always thought though that with his move to Nashville, that he's got more people to clean up after him.
Oh, and he's not relied upon. They have Roman Josi and all them for the top pairing. That he does have a lot of the weight that he had in Montreal lifted off of his shoulders. But
I think he's got more license there to do his high as I said, high risk, high reward play. But that's neither here nor there because that's Nashville, and at this point, who cares?
Yeah, especially being a Colorado Avalanche fan, I don't overly like Nashville.
I like Nashville. I'll watch them if the game's on, but it's not my most favorite team.
I've always been impartial. I don't dislike them, but. I like the Titans. I like teams from Tennessee area, but Nashville's never been one of those teams that even when they first came in the league, I never really cared too much for them.
Yeah, but the game against the Ducks, winning 5-1 to me for the Canadiens, or getting back to the Canadiens, that's quite a win against the Ducks because they they've got really good goaltending. Their team is just deep everywhere.
Yes, but the Ducks were also on a back-to-back, and Bernier was in net.
Okay, never mind. I can see why they scored the 5 goals. But moving it along, again, we're going to move on here to the Ottawa Senators, currently sitting with a record of 17-12-5. And not a great start to their week. They lost 5-1 to the Ducks, lost 4-3 to the Sharks. Then they kind of picked it up after that. They beat the Devils 3-1, which is Devils are no slouch.
No, they're kind of a surprise team.
See, the Devils are always looked at as a surprise team because no one cares about New Jersey.
Yeah.
They are a small market team that's got a really good fan base there, but just the rest of the league.
Well, and they're overshadowed by New York.
Well,
right?
exactly. About the shit show that is the Isles, and then obviously the Rangers. But they played the Devils and won 3-1, and then they played the Islanders and won 6-2 because
it's the Islanders.
That's what you do. And then they won against the Hawks too. And that's no small feat, considering that, if I'm not mistaken, the Hawks are first in the league right now.
I think Montreal took. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't seen the standings, but mind you, Corey Crawford's been out since like December 4th or something like that. Because
Scott Darling's still a good goalie.
Oh, he's a great goal, especially behind that team, right? You
Yeah.
could be an average goalie and look good there.
That's true.
But really, the Islanders, it's not so much about Ottawa winning 6-2. That is, especially winning 3 straight to end their week. Devils, Islanders, and then to win the Hawks. That's a good week. But I mean, I was reading some articles stating that as bad as Colorado is, bottom of the league, that the Islanders are there too because their record doesn't necessarily show that. But after
their team's a shambles.
playoff performances, they're expected to go forward, and they're just shitting the bed this year.
Oh, totally. Well, because they lost 2 of their key players. And didn't replace them. They thought that Andrew Ladd was going to replace Kyle Okposo.
Yeah, no, Okposo
not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
No, Andrew Ladd's at least 3 or 4 years older than Kyle Okposo, and has never put up the same kind of numbers.
And Okposo just seems to have more energy than Ladd. Ladd's a good hockey player, but it's not a replacement for an Okposo.
And they've signed him for another, I think, 5 years.
I mean, I don't blame him for getting that kind of money and going there, but...
Yeah, good on him for getting that kind of money, because any player, I think, deserves it.
I see that being Tavares. I don't think he's, depending on how loyal of a guy he is, but based off of, how he's performing this year, I don't see him returning to the Islanders.
Yeah, when is he up for UFA?
I think it's this or next year, I'm pretty sure.
I think it's next year.
I believe so.
I think next year. But, and that's going to be the big thing. If he doesn't sign come this July, or this upcoming July, that's going to be a massive story. Stamkos. Now everyone's going to be going,
he's going to Toronto. He's from Toronto, or
I don't see him going to Toronto.
I don't either.
Personally.
Especially not where he's like Stamkos, where it's going to be the last contract he signs, where by the end of that contract he's going to be towards the end of his prime. Mm-hmm. So the next contract he signs after that is going to be kind of more of his aging. So
he's going to be, I wouldn't even say at the end of his prime. He'd probably be
a few years
closer to the end of his career.
Right, because
he's going to be well out of his prime if he signs a 7-year contract.
Right, so it's really interesting as to, does he, I don't see him going to Toronto. I could see him choosing someone who he thinks is going to be more of a cup contender immediately, more than in the next few years.
Chicago. He's going to Chicago.
If they can, I'm sure if any GM could pull that off, it would be Chicago.
It would be Stan Bowman, yeah. It would be Oh, man. But, getting back to the Senators here for a second, their record of 17-12-5, it's not bad.
It's surprising.
But the way that the East is going, the Senators, the Metropolitan Division this year is unreal.
Oh, I was looking the other day. Columbus had I believe Columbus is in the Metropolitan. They had
they are.
They had 41 points and they were 4th place in their division.
Yeah, it's that tight a race that either of the wild card spots are going to be held by Metropolitan Division,
and it's
teams.
Probably going to be around 90 or 95 points.
More than that, I'd say it's going to be probably between 95 and 100. That's just my guess. But the only way that anyone from, I think it's the Atlantic still, that the only way that the Senators are going to get in is if they get one of the top 3 spots.
Yeah.
And, you look at it, and obviously Montreal is going to have one of those top 3 spots. That's just the way it's going to go. But you look at the other teams that are there. Like Tampa's probably going to be in there at some point.
Oh,
they got to start picking it up.
Well, it doesn't help that, like I was saying to you earlier, they have like $23 or $24 million of their player salary, not of buried contracts, but of actual player salary in the injured reserve. Especially if they lost Bishop last night for 3 to 4 weeks.
Well, you know what? I don't think they're going to be that upset about Bishop going down injured.
He's been playing pretty bad this
Exactly.
year.
He hasn't been playing well, and I think they want to test Vasilevsky.
Yes, and then also too, the Red Wings aren't playing well, and they have got $29 million in.
They just don't have the team. Anymore.
Well, I was looking at their injuries. Like Helm's out, Franzen's out, Jimmy Howard is now out for. It didn't say it said he's out indefinitely. Tyler Bertuzzi's out. Like all these guys that it was like equivalent to like $28.5 million of their salary is out on the injured reserve.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, and the fact that the Metropolitan Division are dominating this year is kind of a shocker because you never expect it.
Oh, not at all, and that just goes.
They're always the weaker division.
Yeah, and that goes to show a more. The Islanders could sneak into the playoffs when it was a weaker division. Yeah, now they're not going. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. But I'll move it along here, I think, to get into some of the West Coast teams. Because, the West Coast doesn't like when we talk about only the Eastern teams. So the Winnipeg Jets currently sitting with a record of 15-17-3. And not a terrible week. They lost 3-2 to the Oilers. They won 4-3 in overtime to the Panthers. Won 4-1 against the Avs. And then lost 4-1 against the Canucks.
I don't know how you lose 4-1 to the Canucks.
Neither do I. Really, how do you lose? Well, unless Miller has one of his, out-of-body experiences.
Let's let every goal in on every shot. It was a pretty quiet week for them. They won 2, lost 2, but really, the only thing it really comes down to, again, is, reading some highlights or reading some news and watching some highlights, and people are kind of... saying that Patrick Laine and how cocky he is because there was a post today about, all he said was, "I know how good I am."
Yeah, and I'm sure he does. And he is a very good player. You see that one-timer?
Yeah.
He had that's Ovechkin, that really is.
And to me, it's not necessarily him being so cocky as he is just trying to prove to himself as well as everyone who doubts him that I am this good. I have 20 goals or however many goals he has.
I don't doubt him personally. I don't like him, but I don't doubt his talent.
Regardless of if you don't like him or not, you can't deny his skill.
But he's not used in certain situations because he is seen as being a bit of a liability on the ice, and he plays with 2 of their best players. Which that's got to help him post those numbers.
Yeah, but at the same time, the shots that he is scoring on, it's a lot of him creating the space, and it's a lot of him picking the corners. Yeah. But when you do have other guys who are your better players on the team, you're maybe not defended as heavily. But but now, considering he is pretty much their leading scorer or goal scorer, he is starting to draw those heavier defenders. So he is starting to get more assists because he's not as open for the shots as he was.
Yeah, for sure. And again, not a bad week for them, but they're still sitting at 15. They're below 500.
Yeah, they're not doing too well. They win a couple, then they lose a bunch, and they win a couple, they lose a bunch.
They got to be just praying that they can kick on in the second half, though, because the West is pretty weak this year.
Yeah, which is weird.
If there's ever a time for them to catch up and manage to sneak in, it is this year.
It is, and I don't know if it'll happen based off of how streaky they've been the last few years. But
again, and like we've mentioned before, it may be time to move on from Paul Maurice, but if they do, there's really only Gerard Gallant.
Yeah, or you come with some new guy, or
which you don't want to take that kind of a chance.
Yeah,
I don't think they can afford to.
No, not if they want to keep their organization at the same level that it's been at. If you're looking to go forward, there's not really that many coaches out there, I don't think, that can really do it other than maybe Gallant.
Well, they could maybe pry Mark Crawford out of Ottawa because he's been doing a great job there, and he did a pretty good job in Switzerland when he was there as well, and I think he's still got it.
I think, to be honest with Mark Crawford, if the way things keep going with the Avalanche, they're going to fire their coach and try and get him to come back.
See, I don't know that they should fire.
I
know if the
don't
Avs
think
fire
they
their
should.
coach.
Like he's he has proven he's the new NHL coach. He's proven that he can win. He won a ECHL, I believe, and then he also won an AHL championship.
I don't think it's the coach's problem so much as just the makeup of that team.
Oh, for sure, I agree, but you don't know whether or not it's going to be it's the coach's fault or it's the player's fault or if it's everyone's fault and they're going to just dumpster fire everyone, start fresh. So you really don't know at that point. If they do, I would like to keep Bednar, but if they do decide to go that route, Mark Crawford is the candidate that I would want to coach the team.
I could see that. He's got history with the team as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
But I think they need to give their coach another year. I really and truly, I think they need to ride out the hell that is this year, because obviously the team is not as bad.
They need to get out of the contract situations that they're in.
Yes, they do. Well, Iginla's done after this year, thank God. Varlamov's got another year?
I think he's still 2017 and 18 or possibly 19.
So they don't have that much longer on him. So if they did buy him out, it's not terrible. They got room to. It's just the fact that their owner is just such a tight ass with money.
He's also more focused on the NFL team in Los Angeles now than he is on. He should sell it to somebody who actually cares about the team. But that's a little sidetrack.
Exactly.
We can go on to Calgary here, who's they're 17-6-2. They had 4 games like most teams this week. They lost to the Lightning 6-3. They lost to the Blue Jackets 4-1, like everybody has the last few weeks. They won 4-2 against the Coyotes, and then they lost 4-1 to the Sharks. So only one win that week, especially when they had such a hot week last week.
Terrible goaltending.
And their only win that they got was Brian Elliott. So a little role reversal there over the last few weeks. So really not too much, I don't really think, to say about Calgary this week. They need to pick it up. They had such a good week the last week and a half.
But you know what? Considering how terrible their start was, they are sitting pretty.
Oh, for sure. Now. For basically being right at 500 for how bad they were and they couldn't get a win from their starting goaltender. If you can take that and now just string together some wins, go into the the All-Star break in a few weeks or a month or however long it is, and then just continue to play well, then they could sneak in because, like we said, the West isn't as strong this year.
It's quite true, and the only one of the ways that you can basically pinpoint that is just by looking at the Edmonton Oilers, who are currently sitting at 18-12-5, and if I'm not mistaken, they are in first place in their Pacific Division.
I believe they are because Anaheim isn't playing as well as they normally are.
Oh, shocker! A team with Randy Carlyle is not playing to their potential.
To be fair, Randy Carlyle won a cup with Anaheim.
Yeah, because he had Pronger and Niedermeyer on the back end. Pretty sure anyone could win a fucking cup.
Well,
with that.
Jaguar won a cup.
Hey, he was a good goalie.
He retired as a Colorado Avalanche, so
Jiggy was a good goalie, man. He was. But anyways, the Oilers had half decent week. They won 3-2 against the Jets. They lost. Hey, there's a shocker to the Blue Jackets. Everyone's losing to the Blue Jackets. 3-1. They won in shootout against the Lightning, 3-2. They won in overtime against the Blues, 3-2. Then they beat the Coyotes, 3-2.
And that was the first time that they won against the Coyotes. I think it was at home since 2011 or something like that. It's been a curse that they finally broke. But I mean, look at they played 5 games last week and they only lost once. Yeah. So I mean, they're not. Connor McDavid hasn't been tearing it up like he did to start the year, but they're getting
the rest of the team's starting to step up.
They're getting what they needed for the whole year is to not rely only on McDavid.
You know what about the Coyotes though is that Max Domi's out injured
because of a fight.
Hey, I love that Max Domi's willing to drop the gloves, but that's killer for the Coyotes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
When probably their top forward is down with an injury. Pretty brutal. And
it was a pretty brutal fight too. I'm pretty sure he broke his orbital bone.
Ooh.
He was pretty bloody after the fight.
Oof. Grody. That sucks. But the Oilers, they're doing well. I'm still not convinced that they're quite there. But obviously any team with McJesus is going to do well.
Well, I mean, compared to last year, 18-12-5 is not. I don't think that's what really anyone expected.
No, it's not. But you would actually. No, you would expect them to be there at this point, considering that they've got solid. I wouldn't say spectacular, but they have solid goaltending, which is a big change for them. They've got at least some depth and structure on the back end, and then they've got pretty good depth at forward.
Yeah, but they have been underperforming every single year.
Yes, they have been underperforming every single year, but they've also got a pretty darn good coach.
And like when he got fired from San Jose, it was the first year in like 9 seasons that he didn't make the playoffs, and they fired him.
Yeah, well, there were issues in the.
Oh, there were, but I mean,
like, was that not the season that Joe Thornton came out and called Doug Wilson an idiot?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was when they took the captaincy. Yeah.
But there were issues in that dressing room.
If you can, on your resume, that looks pretty good when you're 9 or 10 year coach and you only miss the playoffs once and then you get fired.
Yeah, no, that team has some stability now, which they have not had.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've always had McTavish.
Oh my God.
I mean, he's stable in running the team to the ground.
That is stupid. Stupid continuity. That's for sure. And you know what? I heard something kind of funny. I don't know if it was said by a GM or whoever. It was an unknown quote, but they said a good GM is someone who calls the bad GMs.
That's good.
But anyways, we're going to move along to our final team in Canada here, the Vancouver Canucks, sitting with a record of 14, 16, and 3. And not a great week, because they started off with a shutout loss against the Capitals. They had a gong show of a game against the Hurricanes.
That was a bad
where
game.
They lost 8-6, and when at one point they were up 5-2.
Yeah, they ended up, I'm pretty sure they let in 4 or 5 goals alone in the third period.
Yeah, it's just unbelievably bad. And they won against the Lightning. That was pretty surprising, because the Lightning are a good team. They won 4-2. They lost in overtime to the Blue Jackets 4-3. Then they beat the Jets 4-1.
Yeah.
Not a terrible week.
But they can never get any consistency.
No, they can't.
Other than when they won like the first 4 games to start the year, and then they lost like 9 in a row. They have not gained any consistency where every week we sit here. We have not sat here once and said, oh, wow, they won that many games, or, oh, wow, they did a good week. It's been, oh, it's not a bad week, it's not a good week. It's just a common theme with them, and it seems like every week we bash them.
And you know what? And because of that, we're just not going to talk about them this week, because there's nothing good to say.
It's
nothing
Christmas.
Exactly. It's Christmas season. There's nothing good to say about them. There's nothing different to say about them.
And we want to keep everyone happy.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to hear about Vancouver.
Precisely. So now that we're finally done the roundup, I know we always go off on crazy tangents. We're going to move on to some of the meat of the podcast today, and I want to talk a little bit about whether or not the NHL really needs the shootout anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I hated the tie, to be honest.
Yeah, the tie was kind of a weenie-ass idea. It really was. And I understand why they brought in the shootout coming out of that lockout season, because they needed something new and something fresh to bring people back. And, you'd see all these crazy moves, and you don't see that crap anymore.
No,
it's just guys skating down. They might put the odd move. It's very subtle body movements, and then they take a shot.
Yeah.
It's boring.
It's just head fakes and...
Exactly.
Mind you, you will always get one spectacular goal, but out of the amount of times that there's shootouts, you'd think there would always be something spectacular. There's not.
No, there isn't.
Personally, what I think is, obviously you can't do continuous overtime throughout the regular season because teams would just be way too tired.
Yeah, no, that's just not an option.
I feel like they should go to either a 7 or a 10-minute overtime period.
Yes.
If they go to a 7-minute, then still keep it 3-on-3. If they go to a 10-minute, do 4-on-4. I feel like you'd probably see more goals that way. You
know what? I would say keep it 3-on-3, because personally for me, 3-on-3 has been one of the best decisions that they've ever made. Because the thing about 3-on-3 is that it's so open and free flowing.
Oh, yeah.
The coaches can't coach it, right? Like they coach the hell out of 5-on-5. They do. There's systems in place. Players know exactly where they need to be, and there's little to no room for any creativity whatsoever.
And if one guy's out of position, there's 4 other guys to cover him.
Exactly. And you only get the license to be creative if you're Panarin or Kane, Marner the odd time, maybe Willie Nylander.
Yeah, or even
McDavid.
McDavid or
McDavid has like the
McKinnon.
unlimited hunter's license. Exactly. With McKinnon. And like, unless you're one of those like high-end star players, there's no room for creativity anywhere. You have to play the system or the coach does not play you, which is why I love 3-on-3. All you're seeing is end-to-end rushes. You're seeing 2-on-1s, breakaways, like 1-on-1. You're like,
the one thing I enjoy seeing about that is that's where you really see puck-moving goaltenders.
yeah.
Like,
well, Carey Price.
They
Anderson
even
with
Carey
the Leafs.
Price in 5-on-5, they'll pass him the puck.
Yep,
because he's
absolutely.
fantastic with it. And if
he's calm.
if he can't get in the zone or if they're at the blue line, they pass it back to Carey Price and he just skates up. But again, a lot of times, I've seen a lot of different interviews over the last few years. The last year, that a lot of the star players don't like the 3-on-3. They say
it's a bank skate, right?
It makes them so tired because their star players are relied upon. That at the end of every 3-on-3 that they're exhausted, and then if something does happen, they lose. A lot of them don't necessarily like it. I agree with you though that 3-on-3 is fun to watch.
You know what? I think that's where the NHL needs to step in and go, suck it the hell up, because we are here to entertain our fans.
Oh, for sure.
And the only way that and this is going back to that conversation we had about their ability to grow the game. I think they're either not taking out the shootout per se, but extending the 3-on-3 format is going to grow the game because it's exciting as hell.
Oh,
that is when you are on the edge of your seat. Like, the best game that I have seen in the last year, apart from, I would say, any of the Pittsburgh and Leafs games, because those are always entertaining, but was the North America versus Sweden.
Right,
the Young Guns versus Sweden. When it
that
went
overtime,
to 3-on-3, that was insane.
Yeah, that was a good game.
That was a great game. But this is what I'm saying, is that sometimes the games can be a little boring, and then you get to 3-on-3, and it's just end-to-end. It's exciting. It's dynamic. It grips the audience. And if they can grow that audience, maybe even get ESPN back, get more money, more money for the NHL means more money for the players.
Which is one thing that they want, especially with the escrow and the amount they're
Exactly.
losing. Now, one thing that I think would work is do a 10-minute 3-on-3 and then change ends at the 5-minute mark so that each team can benefit from that, that line change. I feel like that would probably be the best thing to do, because then they could get like a 1 or 2 minute break between the 5 to the 5-minute break.
And I know the NHL is very concerned about how long their games are getting, because their games usually run for about 3 hours.
Watch a baseball game.
Well, exactly. And this is what I'm thinking, is that why do they care so much about keeping it under 3 hours? Like, I watch a soccer game done in under 2 hours. It is kind of nice. But yeah, the biggest audiences in North America tend to be either for basketball, baseball, or the NFL.
Yeah, and the NFL games are even 3 hours.
Yeah, well, minimum 3 hours. I think they're usually 3.5 to 4.
Depends on the type of game you get. But
Yeah,
they can be, usually if the games start at 1 with halftime and everything, they're done around 4-ish. So you're looking at around 3.5 hours. But I mean, look at tennis. People watch tennis, and sometimes these matches go for 1, 2, 3 hours.
Yeah.
And that's a lot more. No offense to tennis, I don't mind watching Wimbledon, but I'd rather watch a back and forth hockey game for 4 hours than I would a tennis match for 3 hours.
I would rather have the game go to 3.5 hours or along those lines, because they've played 10 minutes of 3-on-3 where I've been on the edge of my seat for the last half hour and yelling myself hoarse and just losing my mind over how amazing the game is, compared to 3 hours where I'm just bored out of my mind.
And then you only get 5 minutes overtime.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, I feel a little bit cheated as a fan, because I watch this and I go, sometimes it's the best fucking part of the damn game.
Yeah.
And you're not playing it long enough.
Now, if they were to go to a 10-minute overtime, I think they should resurface the ice.
Yes, they would need to resurface the ice. At least give it a quick flood.
Yeah, just a quick one, just because that way you'll see guys like McKinnon or Marner. You'll see their true speed when the ice is fresh.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not something that's going to be solved this year. I you know what? Hopefully at the next Board of Governors meeting or GM's meeting, whatever, they maybe discuss it, because a lot of people, I think, are getting tired of the shootout.
Yeah.
It's boring.
But could you imagine like guys like Brodeur or Waugh or all those guys who have all these ties on their record, what their win record would be had they've gone to the shootout? They could have had, another however many wins that,
That's true.
So it sucks for them, but
hey, that's the way it is, because Gretzky is over 2,000 points.
Yeah,
because he got over 200 in one season.
But that
no
was
one
when,
does that anymore.
That was when goalies didn't even know what butterfly meant.
Yeah, exactly. What, I can go down on my knees?
It was funny because I went to like an NHL alumni game versus the London, Ontario Police Fire Department. Yeah. And it was an old school Maple Leafs goal. I don't know who it was. It was not a big name, but
Johnny Bauer.
You could tell. Well, he was the coach. He was actually the coach. Yeah, no way. But it was some other guy I've never even heard of playing net. And you could tell he was old school because the shots were coming in and he wasn't going down. He was just sticking his legs together and batting it with his stick. And you can tell that he was just old school hockey, right? Marty McSorley played in that game. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But you know what? I hope they really take a close look at that. And I really hope, I pray to God they decide to change that.
Especially if they want to increase or get more viewers from China and from the East. You're going to want to. Mind you, it might be exciting for them at first, but it is getting pretty redundant and pretty... Yeah. It's not fun to watch because it's just too short. 5 minutes just goes by.
I know. Before you know it, the whole thing's done. You go, oh, well, now I have to watch a shootout.
Yeah. It also doesn't help for you that you're a Leafs fan.
Oh my God!
They can't win a shootout to save their lives.
I don't know what it is this year. They are snake bitten on the shootout. Like the one against Arizona, they hit the post 3 fucking times. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that. And you know what? That to a certain extent, that's a little bit of my frustration with the shootout right now, is that the Leafs can't win one to save their lives.
But as a hockey fan in general, the shootout is getting old.
Once I started getting annoyed with it, I actually paid attention a little more to it. And yeah, it's old, it's stale, and I'm bored.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be bored. That's why I watch hockey, so I'm not bored. So hockey, please stop boring me. But
you hear that, Gary Bettman?
Yeah. Come on, Bettman, do your job. But anyways, you know what? We'll move it on to another topic here, because I also want to talk about the NHL protecting its stars. And I know the NHL and hockey in general is very conservative. Everything's got to be the same for everyone. I'd like to call bullshit on that.
Yeah.
Their stars they're the ones that make all the money for the NHL. They're the ones that draw people in.
Bring the fan bases in.
Like, how many people in Colorado are going to see an Avs game because of John Mitchell?
Yeah.
Like, I know you love John Mitchell, but...
But to be honest,
he's no McKinnon.
Yeah, you go because of McKinnon, or you go because of Duchesne,
Tyson Barrie, Landeskog, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
That's who you're going to see, and this has kind of been my theory lately, because especially, and I know I sent you that article the other day on how obstruction is coming back because players have found a gray area for being able to hook and slash.
That's bad.
I think what has highlighted that to a massive degree this season is what happened to Johnny Gaudreau when
Stahl broke his finger.
Where Stahl just kind of gave him a little slash, broke his finger, and put him out for 6 weeks.
Yeah, he ended up coming back early, but he missed a lot of time.
He did, and that was a lot of time for Calgary, and they need to have I think they need to have kind of a separate set of rules for the stars. You can't be slashing them all the time. The refs need to start calling that shit.
Yeah, and especially when you see guys, especially the one that you sent me where McDavid was on a clear breakaway. Yeah. Got hooked 3 times and slashed 5 times, and there was no call.
Now, the NHL did admit that, they kind of blew the call on that. But the fact is that the players in the last 10 years have figured out a gray area where the refs aren't going to call it.
Especially with the gray area, and then the removal of the enforcers. It's something that they're going to get away with now, and there's not going to be any reprimand or...
And not only with the removal of the enforcers, but the instigator penalty.
Yeah.
You can't go up and smack some guy in his face for slashing your best player because you're going to get the extra 2 minutes.
The way I look at it is that the NHL has kind of become like wrestling. Where the 90s, it was all the Attitude Era. They had all this, now it's all this PG era where they can't do anything, or they get away with all this stuff, and there's no calls.
I'm not advocating going back to the enforcers era, and
the refs just need to be held more accountable for guys like
the refs have been missing a lot of calls,
and not just for the Stars. The refs have just been aging, and apparently they all need glasses.
Well, and you know what? Some of the refs do a great job. Kelly Sutherland, especially, I think he's their top ref. He always does a phenomenal job.
I miss Kerry Fraser.
I do. I miss Kerry Fraser as well.
And his hair.
Wait, I can't remember the one ref's name, but he's always the one that gets into it with the when there's a challenge on it. He always gives a little more excitement to it.
Right.
Some refs will go up and oh, this is the call, it's a good goal. He gets in there and it's and we have a good goal. He gets into it.
Animated.
Exactly. He raises that excitement level, which I love. But the refs need to start taking a stricter line against what is allowable to the Stars. If Komarov gets a smack to the face, I don't care. That is what he brings to the team. He's kind of got to expect that.
He's gonna deserve one of them.
But when Marner got a smack on the hand from just a light slash, and he's going like this, I'm getting a little pissed off because first off, he's 19. Secondly, he's one of the best players, and he's going to be a star in the league for the next 12 to 15 years.
Yeah, there needs to be some sort of precedent set that shit's gonna happen if you go after the league's best players. Whether it's these little slashes or whether it's
supplemental discipline as well, after the game if it's not caught during.
Yeah, that's one thing that I was thinking is if the ref doesn't call these McDavid's getting slashed 4 times, maybe throw a $500,000 fine or something along those lines.
Yeah, because
one of these players to stop that.
Exactly, you can fine someone, but you got to make it hurt.
Yeah.
Now, $500,000 to some is that's almost like what they make in a year.
No, it's 500 to 1,000.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay. No, that's chump change. You got to start going 50 to 100,000. You got to hit them where it hurts, and that's in their pocketbooks. And you can't just do it to the team because the team's not going to care.
Yeah, the team won't care. You got to do it to the person.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, there needs to be either refs need to start calling penalties when they see that little slash to the hands. That even Patrick Kane goes, yeah, I put up with that crap on a daily basis.
Especially when you see someone get their finger broken, you'd think that there would be more calls, or they'd be looking out for that more.
But no, it's gone in the absolute opposite direction. And I get that the refs want to let the teams play. I get that because to a certain extent, yeah, it is a little more entertaining. But you want there to be more goals? Get them to 5-on-4. Get them on the power play.
Yeah.
Get them on 5-on-3s. That's where your goals are going to come from.
Especially with the league ever since the lockout has been stuck at just under 3 goals a game.
No, not that's only since about I think 07-08. But for those first couple of years when they were really calling everything, there were a lot of goals.
Oh, and those little cheap shots didn't happen as much because there was penalties called.
Well, not only that, but players didn't know where the gray area is. They figured it out.
Yeah.
And so the NHL and the Department of Player Safety, who are apparently just dickless at this point since Shanahan left, they need to get their act together and start disciplining these players for crap that they're doing to the people that make the fucking money for the whole league.
They should watch some European hockey because those little hand slashes
they get away
called
with nothing
every single time. When Canada, the World Juniors, when they were there a few years ago, I said this before. The little hand taps every single time called for slashing.
Well, last year when they were in Finland, especially my God, Virtanen. He was taking penalties that just frustrated the hell out of me. But
that's stuff they get away with here.
Exactly, that's stuff you can get away with in the juniors here that you can't get away with over there.
Over there, it's more strict.
Absolutely.
More open ice too, so that's more prevalent. You'd think
they play a slower game though because of the wider ice. They play a far more east-west than north-south game.
But those little stick checks to the hand are non-existent.
No, they are not acceptable whatsoever. Let's why don't we take a quick look at where we're sitting here time-wise? Okay, we got a couple minutes. So, World Juniors start next Monday,
Boxing Day.
Now, I don't have the lineup in front of me. Forgot to print that off, but we'll talk about that a little more next week once the tournament starts. But everyone should watch. It's always a good time, and it's here in Canada this year, so you don't have to be up at 1 a.m. to watch some stupid game.
The only thing I'll really say, before we move on to our last piece about the World Juniors is they, Canada decided to cut some of the bigger name players, not necessarily bigger name players, because guys like McDavid or all these guys
they're not going,
who are obviously not going, like Marner, all these guys.
Yeah.
Who
Can you imagine though if McDavid and Marner went? Oh my God!
But the thing is the one thing that I think benefits Canada the most this year is they don't have that star that's going to be relied upon.
Well, Tyson Jost.
Right.
Tyson Jost is going to be relied upon. He was lighting it up in their pre-tournament qualifiers.
And the under 18s or under 17s, he broke McDavid's record. So I'm happy to see him as a Colorado Avalanche draftee. But
that's going to be a wicked line.
The only thing that really to me, other than they expect him to do well, but there's no guys like McDavid or like Marner that's going to have that added pressure to them that they have to do well.
That's true.
So they're going to have more of a balanced attack approach, which might make them play better.
Marner looked it last year. That was one of the things I noticed in those first couple of games until like the last one against Finland when he started playing his game, was that he was gripping the stick a little too hard, trying a little too hard, and
and
didn't work.
So this year, with having no huge names,
they're on home ice as well, so they're going to have a little more comfort level. They are playing. They'll be able to play the style of game that they want to play, and they're in a regular rink. They're not on
a European ice with
but
shorter boards.
You know what I find kind of funny though is that the guy that's going to be their horse on the back end. For the life of me, can't remember his name. Went undrafted for 2 years. Somehow this guy slipped through. That he's like 200 pounds, 6'3". No one's going to take a 7-round flyer on him. But you know who have signed him is Philadelphia. Like they need more help on the back end.
They seem to pick those diamonds in the rough with the defense there.
Man, they have got one of the best decors going forward. They've been dying for it for years.
They needed it.
Like they got Gostisbehere, Provorov, and now this new guy that's coming up again. Sorry, can't remember his name. They are going to be set for a long time. But I think we'll move on to our final topic for today, and Jaromir Jagr hit another milestone.
Number 2, tied for number 2 with Mark Messier, and like I was saying to you, it's funny because he's tied for second, but he's like 950 points away from Gretzky, and the difference between number 1 and 2 is the same as number 2 to number 104.
Yeah. So, like I said, no one's catching Gretzky.
No, not in today's day and age.
Unless you went back to times when goalies didn't go into the butterfly,
and they had smaller pads, right?
Yeah, that too.
So congratulations to Jagr. That's he said the other day that he's going to do everything he can to play until he's 50.
I don't see it. I don't think he's got the legs to do it.
I could still see him, whether he only plays maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes a game. I could see him at least still being out there.
Even if you just keep him on the bench and then power play, let's get out there.
I mean, I think no matter how old he is, with what he's done to the game and for the game, he deserves to at least try.
Oh no, for sure. And you know what? I could see him going back to the KHL for a few more years to play out the rest of his career, because I don't think he can really cut it in the NHL anymore. I think it's too fast for him, and I know he constantly tries to keep up with his body, but he's mid-40s, and he's only getting older. That gets harder and harder to do as you go forward. And, if he wants to play to 50, I commend him on that, but I think everyone's getting a little bit of this rose-tinted kind of goggles about him, right? Or beer goggles, however you want to think about it, where it's like, oh my God, Jagr's so amazing, and wants to keep playing until he's 50. Let's get him there. Let's get him to 50.
Oh, for sure.
But at what point do you look at that and go, he's just not Jagr anymore. He's not adding anything to our team. He's 45, 46, 47, and even 50.
To be fair, though, he's still better than Sean Thornton is, and Thornton still has a spot on the Florida Panthers.
But Thornton adds something a little different.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But Jagr is supposed to score goals and put up points. He's not doing that.
He got 3 points the other game, so he's still doing it.
Yeah, but over the whole of the season so far, usually it's in the first half of the season when he's good and then tails off. He's just been mediocre.
Maybe because at the beginning of the year he did say that he's getting used to his new body because he is getting older. He had to lose some weight to. I didn't realize he was like 6'3", 240.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Yeah, now he's
a tank.
Now he's like he said that going into training camp he was like 220. So he lost like 20 pounds of to try and keep up. So he might not really be used to it. Now he is starting to slowly get more points as the games are going on. Maybe he's getting a little bit more used to something. But
true, but
again, like talking puck fashion, it's just going to be something that we're going to have to keep an
eye
eye on.
We're going to have to keep an eye on that and see how we're doing for time here. I think it's about time that we end it for the week, and I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas,
and Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate.
Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you want to do. It's all good. And I think we'll probably be back later next week.
Yeah, we'll have some
maybe this time next week, something like that.
Yeah, we'll have a little bit of the hockey,
I'll probably be mainly World Juniors.
Yeah, it'll be mostly the tournament.
We can maybe talk some hockey memories, that sort of thing.
Maybe we'll have just like a World Junior or some sort of just special edition podcast.
Exactly. Something that's maybe not so current NHL based, but we will deal with that when we get to it next week, and we hope everyone has a happy holidays,
and see you guys later.
We will talk to you next week.